Why did I decide to start a YouTube gaming channel with my son? The short answer is that it was my son's idea. He thought it'd be a lot of fun. He had asked me to do it for a few months. After thinking about it and kind of weighing pros and cons, I decided it'd be a lot of fun and hopefully a good bonding experience. And so I decided to do it. But I know people don't usually come to these type of videos for short answers, so I'll give you the longer, more in-depth answer. I've been playing video games for pretty much as long as I can remember. I grew up playing the original NES that I got, I think, when I was 6. I also played my uncle's Game Boy before I got my own. Just pretty much always played games and always enjoyed them. And I'm 33 now. My son just turned 9, and having kids gave me a chance to go back and play old games again and kind of experience it through them. I also have a 4-year-old daughter who's getting more into gaming now, more beyond just giving her a not hooked up controller and letting her think she's playing while I play. So she's finally starting to play her own, and she actually really likes tablet games and mobile games, which that's been an interesting thing to watch those rise, where you don't need controllers anymore. It's just touching the screen. But so I've always been into games, and I also have a background in filmmaking, which you may not be able to tell from the quality of these because I don't really have equipment at this point. I'm filming this on iPhone, but I went to school at UC Berkeley, and I graduated 10 years ago with a degree in film. And for about a year after I graduated, I worked as a contractor for Google. So I would make a lot of corporate videos, and occasionally I would even go to YouTube and make videos for them. So that was a real interesting experience. I could tell you a lot of stories about that. If you're interested, just let me know and I can make a video just kind of documenting that. I could also, I'll put a link in the description to my other YouTube channel where I have kind of my demo reel and some of the stuff I worked on there. Although a lot of the stuff I worked on was internal, so it's classified, so they don't share it. But the public ones are pretty interesting. I filmed a lot of guest speakers and things like that. Those are always fun to do. But after that ended, my son was already born, and I saw that kind of the Bay Area wasn't the easiest place to get film work and video work. And of course, the Bay Area is known more for tech jobs, and I also had skills in that area from, if you don't know, I also draw comics. Black Snow Comics is my comic company, and I've been doing web comics for about, well, over 15 years now. So I can put a link to that too, if you're interested in that. But working on that always gave me a chance to learn more about website development and anything going on kind of in that spectrum. So I always kind of had that in my back pocket. So eventually that's what I moved into, more internet marketing for companies and things, and that's what I still currently do. But occasionally I got to do some video work, but over time it became less and less. And like I said, at this point, I don't really have any equipment. I didn't usually have my own equipment. Usually it was company equipment I was using anyway. But I do have like a background in, I know how to edit with Final Cut or Premiere, things like that. Although I never loved editing. It's fun in a way, but it's also very time consuming and takes a lot of effort, which I much prefer. When I was at Google, I didn't work in the editing side of things. We called them shooters, but basically I was a camera operator, which that was a lot of fun in itself too, because we had some pretty nice cameras for the time, and then depending on which room you worked, sometimes I got to work robotic cameras that were remote controlled from the ceiling or different things. So I got a lot of interesting experiences with that and running switchboards and things. But so I had kind of let my video stuff go by the wayside. And then last year, my son really wanted to start a YouTube channel for his puppets, because my son's really into puppetry. and I'll link to that too if you're into puppets. But so I let him start that and helped him out, and basically I would just record with my iPhone and slowly I kind of built my iPhone recording skills, because I'd done a little of that in the past, but I never took it too seriously. But the iPhone's a pretty powerful camera. It's pretty amazing what we're all carrying around now in our pockets compared to the really expensive equipment 10 years ago that I had. Like the image quality, it's not exactly the same, but it kind of rivals where we're at, because you can produce 1080p videos with your phone, which I wouldn't have thought that 10 years ago. Well, 10 years ago, I was also using a corporate BlackBerry, so things were a little different. So I started recording my son's puppet videos, and basically I just told him we're doing them in one take. I don't want to bother editing these. I don't even know how to edit on my phone. And that's why we did it for quite a while. And then not very long ago, I decided finally to he started coming up with more and more ideas that would require editing, and once he kind of started thinking about it, he would watch other videos or movies or things, and he would say, well, look how much they're editing, look what they're doing, why can't we do it? And then he'd look back at some of my old stuff and he said, well, you know how to edit. And I said, well, that's different, but I guess it's not really different. But finally I decided to look into easily editing things on my phone with iMovie and a few other softwares or apps, and it was pretty easy. So that kind of got me excited, and it opened up a lot more possibilities. Inspired me a little more on getting back into some of my passion for filmmaking. So this was a chance to do that. And at the same time, I had started watching a lot more YouTube probably about 2 years ago, and I got more into the gaming side of YouTube. And I think I had the attitude a lot of people have when they don't really watch gaming YouTube and they just know of it, where I was like, well, who wants to watch someone else play video games or talk about video games? That sounds pretty boring. But when you actually do it, I'm sure not for everybody, but for a lot of people, some reason there's something very very interesting about it, and it really pulls you in. So once I started getting more and more into it, I started watching all the big ones, then working my way to smaller and smaller channels just because I wanted to see more. And I loved the retro side of things because it allowed me to learn more about things that I was interested in when I was younger that maybe I didn't get too much of because they weren't heavily covered in magazines or things at the time. Or it allowed me to go back and think of games that I had played and say, well, I haven't thought of that game in a long time. I wonder if there's any documentation out there, and usually there was. So I started getting more heavily into that, and my son and my daughter, they both love YouTube, and they watch a lot of stuff on there, which is good and bad, because you gotta keep an eye on what your kids are watching, because YouTube can lead to, of course, some pretty dark corners. But eventually I started showing him some of the game stuff I watched, and he liked that, and that got him excited. Then it got him thinking, we play games all the time, why don't we start our own channel? And the things that kind of held me back were not having really any equipment. So I researched that a little and found that some of these guys are even using their phones. I don't have any kind of capture card for capturing game footage, which my son really wants us to get into, and I'd like to get into, but I don't. Well, I still have to kind of look into that more and find what's affordable and what's easy for us. But then I started watching some of the channels like Immortal John Hancock or Happy Console Gamer, where they don't do as much capture or editing. It's more them talking to the camera, very similar to what I'm doing here. And when I started watching that, especially Happy Console Gamer, with him sharing his memories and hanging out with his friends and going over just talking about stories about what he had experienced with the games when he first played them, that really was more inspiring to me, where I was like, well, there's a market for this. And like, I personally found it interesting, which when I first saw it, I was thinking, oh, this is, again, I thought, well, this seems like it's gonna be pretty boring. Like, what do I care about someone else's memories of a game? But I think actually watching it, it lets you, well, it let me like feel some kind of connection to it, where some of them, like, it reminded me of my own experiences, or I can't say exactly what it is. There's a whole thing now too where we listen to a podcast of someone or watch someone on YouTube so much that we feel some kind of personal connection to that person, even though it's one-sided. But it's kind of an interesting thing. We really get to know somebody, and they don't know us, but that was kind of the case with there's a few other channels too. Those weren't the only channels like that, but so that was a source of inspiration, where I said I could do that. I mean, I have memories. I played a lot of games, and then the other thing I thought, well, what makes it any different besides that it's my memories is, well, I play a lot of games with my kids, and especially my son, and he always has. I've always been really interested in his take on the things, because seeing him play like the old Mario, and thinking back to my own experiences is pretty fun for me. And I thought, well, that could be something fun for other people. So that led me to think that maybe people would enjoy this. So that's basically why I got back into it. I spend a lot of time with my kids. I work from home because I do the internet marketing. You could do that from your computer. I get involved with them pretty much all the time. Like, I'm my son's den leader for Cub Scouts. We're playing stuff all the time together, that kind of thing. So this is just kind of an extension of, it's something in a way we were already doing, because we're already going through and playing all these games and having fun together. It's just a way to, I guess, share that with other people and kind of document it, where these will kind of serve as home movies for us at some point too, where we can go back and look at what we were doing together, whether it's sharing our thoughts on something, or doing some kind of bad, silly acting on a skit for a video, or different things like that. It just seems like fun, basically. So I hope that it's fun for people to watch. So far, I'm very happy with the positive response we've been getting from people. We've only been doing it for, 2 weeks now, and we're already getting a number of comments and likes and sharing of our videos. So I'm very pleased. Hopefully it continues that way. At some point, I think I'd even like to get my dad to appear on some of the videos. I think that'd be fun to show 3 generations playing some games. My dad's not a gamer at all. He played some of like the NES when I first got it. He would play some games with me. He was more drawn towards the sports games, so we played like World Cup Soccer and Legends of the Diamond and NES football and stuff like that. And I had fun playing that with him. But when I started getting into more things, like I remember getting a game, Faxanadu, I think is how you say it. And back then, when you got games, well, at least for me, when I got a game, like, that was my game for a few months, because my parents weren't going to be buying me another one. They were kind of expensive at the time. So I remember trying to play that and needing his help because of getting stuck, and that kind of hit his limit of where he was at with gaming, and he didn't know how to help anymore, so we were just pretty much stuck. and I never got too far in that game. Maybe I'll revisit that game sometime, now that I'm a more experienced gamer, but it'd be fun to see his take on some of the games. Pretty much the only games that he usually plays now with us is Mario Kart. He will play Mario Kart 8 quite a bit, but I think that could be a fun thing too. Unfortunately, my grandparents, well, both my grandpas are passed away at this point, and one of them was not a gamer, and the other one was a pretty big gamer of old school games like Atari and NES. So that could have been interesting too, but unfortunately, it's not a possibility anymore. As my daughter gets older, I'll probably have to rename the channel something father and kids gaming or something, because I know she's interested in it too. So once she's kind of a little older age where she can articulate herself better for the videos and kind of share her thoughts a little more, I think that'd be an interesting take to get in it, on it too. And then I also have a baby on the way coming in December, so like for the foreseeable future I'll have kids playing video games with me. I know right now there's a lot going on with YouTube and content creators, and it's probably not the best time to start a gaming channel. From everything I hear from other creators and things, there's a lot of issues with payment, and like we're not allowed to do any advertising right now until we get to 10,000 views. So that's a hurdle in itself at this point. But I'm usually late to a lot of things, so late to the party. Why not this one too? Plus, it's more for fun at this point for us. I'm not expecting to get rich off it or quit my day job or anything like that. It's like I mentioned, it's just for fun and bonding. It's stuff we're doing anyway. It's just a way of documenting it and sharing it. So as our videos continue, hopefully you'll see some more kind of filmmaking flourish coming into them. I've already tried a couple things, like doing the nighttime stuff for Freddie, and we worked in a little acting and stuff for the Daytona video. And I'd like to keep doing more and more stuff like that. Hopefully I can get some more equipment. So far I just got this adapter for my iPhone to put it on my tripod that I already had. So that's helpful, rather than trying to prop it up on pillows or something. Next, I think I'd really like to get us some lavalier mics or some kind of mics, just because I know the audio quality is not ideal unless you're sitting pretty close to the iPhone like I am right now, but doesn't inherently make it easy to do a lot of different filmmaking where you're moving around or not pointed directly towards the microphone when you're speaking. And like I mentioned, I'd like to get a capture card. If you watched the Daytona video, you probably noticed that I just filmed the screen a little bit, which, I mean, that works, but it's not ideal. But hopefully you'll keep seeing the quality of the videos improve, and you'll continue watching them and enjoying them.